Why 10mm carbines are hard to ignore. A 10mm carbine can look like the perfect upgrade. More velocity than a handgun, more stability, more capacity, and more authority than a typical 9mm pistol caliber carbine. But here is the problem. The wrong 10mm carbine can become an expensive gun you stop shooting. Not because 10mm is a bad cartridge, and not necessarily because the firearm is unreliable. It happens because buyers focus on power and ignore everything that determines whether the gun is practical to own. The recoil system, the weight, the magazine ecosystem, the price of ammunition, the cost of the optic and accessories, and how the gun actually feels after a full-range session with real 10mm loads. A light straight blowback carbine can behave very differently from a buffered, radial delayed, hydraulic or roller delayed platform. Two guns may fire the same cartridge. That does not mean they deliver the same shooting experience. Some of the carbines on this list are practical tools. Some are compact folding guns built around storage and portability. Some use advanced operating systems that genuinely change the recoil impulse. And some are expensive specialty firearms that make sense only for a very specific buyer. Today, we are comparing the 10mm pistol caliber carbines that deserve your attention. We are looking at what each gun does well, where it falls short, what magazines it uses, how its operating system affects the shooter, and whether the complete package still makes sense after the purchase price. By the end, you will know which model is the value pick, which one offers the best folding design, which premium system may actually justify its price, and which gun you should avoid unless it fits your exact use case. Because 10mm power is easy to advertise. A carbine you can afford to feed, train with, and depend on is much harder to build. Before we start, hit the like button if you appreciate practical firearm analysis without the marketing hype. Subscribe for more honest gun reviews and buyer guides, and leave a comment below. Which 10mm carbine would you trust with your own money? Let's get into it. Aero Survival Rifle. The TNW Aero Survival Rifle earns its place through utility. It is not the cheapest 10mm rifle available. It is also not boutique priced. For the money, it offers a practical mix of portability, modularity, and caliber flexibility. At first glance, it has familiar AR-style features. The safety location feels familiar. The pistol grip and magazine well sit where many modern carbine shooters expect them. But this is not an AR-15 wearing different furniture. The charging handle is different. The receiver is different. The operating system is different. And the removable barrel is one of the main reasons to consider it. The rifle can be broken down for easier storage and transport. That gives it a legitimate role as a packable carbine, camp gun, or general emergency rifle. It also supports caliber conversions. For a shooter who already keeps several pistol calibers on hand, that flexibility can have real value. In 10mm, the platform gains a wider working range than softer pistol calibers. It has enough performance for defensive use. With the right ammunition, it may also fit certain field or hunting roles where legal. Some backcountry users may also consider 10mm for animal defense. That is a specialized role. It requires appropriate ammunition, reliable function, and realistic expectations. The action uses straight blowback with a heavy bolt. That system is simple and robust. It does not soften recoil the way a delayed system can. Still, the rifle's weight and shoulder-fired format keep it manageable for most experienced shooters. The 10mm version can also be converted to 45 ACP. That only matters if you will actually use and verify both configurations. Otherwise, you are paying for flexibility that may never leave the case. The TNW is the survival-minded utility pick. It is not the softest shooting gun here. It is not the most refined. But if takedown capability and caliber flexibility matter to you, the TNW makes a strong case. Smith & Wesson M&P FPC 10mm. The Smith & Wesson M&P FPC 10mm is built around one clear idea: compact storage without giving up a 16-inch barrel. The original FPC used a simple blowback system and folded horizontally. That allowed the gun to become much shorter without interfering with the optic. The 10mm model keeps that concept but adds more mass and slightly larger dimensions. That extra weight is not wasted. 10mm pushes harder than 9mm. A little more gun can make the shooting experience noticeably better. The barrel measures 16.25 inches. The muzzle is threaded, and the longer barrel gives the cartridge more room to perform than it gets from a typical handgun. Smith & Wesson also uses a tungsten-infused recoil buffer. That is an important feature in this chambering. In a folding carbine, recoil management affects more than comfort. It affects how quickly you return to the sights. It also affects how willing you are to practice with full power ammunition. The grip shape and texture come from the M&P 10mm pistol family. You get interchangeable back straps and a flat-face trigger. For shooters already using an M&P 10mm handgun, the familiarity is immediate. The controls are practical. There is a bilateral bolt release. The magazine release is reversible. The charging handle can be operated from either side, and the crossbolt safety is simple to understand. The rifle ships without sights. It is optics ready, with a full-length Picatinny rail and M-LOK accessory slots. The magazine system is one of its strongest features. It uses 15-round M&P 10mm M 2.0 magazines. 3 magazines come with the rifle. 1 rides in the action, 2 more store inside the stock. That is a smart feature. If the entire point is compact storage, keeping spare magazines attached to the gun makes sense. A restricted capacity version is also offered for buyers in certain states. The price starts around $700, depending on the configuration. That puts the FPC in an interesting position. It offers a folding design, onboard magazine storage, major brand support, and a familiar pistol ecosystem without moving into premium PCC pricing. This is the smart folding pick for the M&P shooter. Ruger LC Carbine 10mm. The Ruger LC Carbine 10mm takes a different approach. The original LC Carbine was compact and easy to handle, but it started in 5.7 by 28. That cartridge has its audience. Not every shooter wants to build around it. Ruger later added 45 ACP. The 10mm version may be the most practical hard-hitting option in the lineup. At the center of the rifle is a blowback action with an overhung bolt inside an aluminum alloy receiver. The design keeps the overall package compact. It also allows the magazine to feed through the pistol grip. That helps the rifle feel short and balanced instead of stretched out. The 10mm model uses Glock pattern 10mm magazines. That is a major advantage. Magazine availability can determine whether a PCC remains convenient years after the purchase. Common magazines are easier to find, easier to replace, and usually easier to justify. The fire control system is Ruger's hammer-fired secure action design. The rifle includes bilateral safeties and bolt releases. The magazine release is reversible. That makes the gun adaptable for right-handed and left-handed shooters. The lower receiver includes short section of Picatinny rail in front of the trigger guard. The aluminum handguard adds M-LOK slots. Ruger also includes folding backup sights. That saves the buyer from needing an optic before the first range trip. The barrel is 16.25 inches and threaded at the muzzle. The drawback is the price. The current suggested retail price sits around $1,080. That is expensive for a pistol caliber carbine. So the real question is not whether the Ruger is well equipped. It is whether its compact layout, included sights, magazine compatibility, and overall refinement justify the premium over the FPC or KelTec. For the buyer who wants Ruger support and Glock pattern magazines in a refined package, it may. B&T T10. The B&T T10 is not aimed at the bargain shopper. This is a premium modern platform built around engineering, control layout, and recoil management. 10mm can feel sharp in a basic blowback gun. The APC-10 uses a hydraulic-assisted blowback system to smooth the recoil impulse. It does not turn 10mm into .22 long rifle, but it can make the gun feel more controlled and less abrupt. Physics does not care about marketing. The operating system matters. The APC-10 also uses Glock 20 magazines. That keeps the magazine ecosystem simple. You are not chasing rare proprietary magazines for an already expensive gun. The platform includes non-reciprocating folding charging handles and well-placed controls. The layout works for right-handed and left-handed shooters. The trigger is clean and predictable. With a quality optic, the APC-10 becomes a serious defensive platform for a trained, law-abiding owner. But buyers need to pay close attention to the exact configuration. Short-barreled, pistol and stock-equipped versions may fall into different legal categories. Check the precise model, barrel length, rear attachment, federal rules, and state law before buying. This is the premium modern defensive pick. The hydraulic system is not the question. The question is whether that refinement is worth several times the price of a basic blowback carbine. KelTec Sub 2000 GLK 10mm. KelTec has always built firearms that solve storage problems in unusual ways. The KelTec Sub 2000 GLK 10mm continues that tradition. It uses Glock magazines. It folds into a compact package, and it gives the 10mm cartridge a 16.15-inch barrel. The Sub 2000 has been around for roughly a quarter century. The design has now moved through 3 generations. The Gen 3 model is the version that matters here. The 10mm gun weighs about 5.6 pounds. That is roughly a pound heavier than some smaller caliber versions. The extra mass helps the gun manage the harder recoil impulse. It feeds from Glock 20 and Glock 40 magazines. That is exactly the magazine system many 10mm buyers already want. The action is straight blowback. The trigger is serviceable. The gun is light, simple, and portable. But the major improvement is the rotating handguard. That allows the optic to stay mounted while the rifle folds. Older folding designs could force the shooter to choose between a useful optic setup and a fully folded gun. The Gen 3 solves that problem. The handguard has M-lock slots. The top rail provides room for an optic. The barrel is threaded. The crossbolt safety is not fully ambidextrous, but it can be accessed from either side with practice. The suggested retail price is about $599. That is the main attraction. Nobody should confuse the KelTec with the B&T. They are not competing on the same level of refinement. The KelTec is the value folding pick. Buy it for storage, portability, common magazines, and price. Do not buy it expecting premium controls or hydraulic recoil management. KRISS Vector CRB 10mm. Want the most visually unusual gun on the list? That would be the KRISS Vector CRB 10mm. But the Vector is not shaped that way just to attract attention. Its design is built around recoil control. The Vector uses a low-bore axis and the Super V delayed blowback system. The moving mass travels down through the chassis instead of driving straight back into the shooter. The goal is to reduce muzzle rise and help the shooter recover more quickly between shots. Fundamentals still matter. A mechanical system does not replace grip, stance, or practice. But the Vector is not strange for the sake of being strange. The recoil path is the reason for the entire layout. The platform uses an adjustable stock and ambidextrous safety controls. The bolt and magazine controls are operated with the support hand while the firing hand remains on the grip. That manual of arms may feel unusual at first. It is part of the Vector's design. The gun also uses Glock pattern magazines. That gives an unconventional platform a very conventional magazine ecosystem. Current versions are offered with modernized furniture and high-capacity magazine options, depending on local law. The Vector is not light, it is not cheap, and it does not handle like a traditional AR-style carbine. This is the futuristic premium pick for someone who values recoil management engineering, distinctive handling, and real personality. CMMG Banshee 10mm. The CMMG Banshee 10mm is another high-end option, but its reason for existing is very different. The main story is CMMG's radial delayed blowback system. Instead of relying on a basic heavy bolt moving straight backward, the system delays the action and changes the way recoil is delivered. The result can feel smoother and more controlled than a simple blowback 10mm. That matters on a light, compact platform. The Banshee uses an AR-style control layout. For many American shooters, that means less time learning the gun and more time running it. Depending on the configuration, the platform can weigh around 5.5 pounds. It uses Glock pattern magazines. Again, that matters. A premium firearm is easier to justify when the magazines are already common and widely supported. With full power 180-grain loads, the operating system starts earning its price. The gun remains light and compact, but the recoil impulse is less crude than what many straight blowback designs deliver. The hard truth is cost. The Banshee is expensive. Specific configurations may also be difficult to find. And buyers must pay attention to whether they are purchasing a pistol, a short-barreled rifle, an upper receiver, or another configuration. This is the Serious Shooter's premium 10mm platform. It makes the most sense for someone who wants AR familiarity with a more advanced operating system. Dakota Tactical 10mm MP5 clone. If budget is a concern, this is the section to skip. The Dakota Tactical 10mm MP5 clone is built for enthusiasts who already understand the roller-delayed world. Dakota Tactical is a small manufacturer. Among MP5 fans, the company has built a serious reputation. The 10mm model is not cheap. A pistol configuration may cost around $5,500, depending on the exact build and availability. That price should stop most buyers. This is not an impulse purchase. It is for someone who already wants the classic roller-delayed feel and is willing to pay for a specialized build. What you get is mechanical character, smooth cycling, classic MP5 styling, and a platform that feels completely different from a basic blowback carbine. A top Picatinny rail makes mounting a red dot straightforward. The straight magazines preserve the original MP5 profile. Some versions use a rear sling attachment instead of a stock, but buyers need to understand exactly what they are purchasing. Pistol, brace, stock, and short-barreled rifle rules are not details to guess on. Federal policy has changed and faced major litigation. State law can add another layer. Verify the current rules before buying or modifying any short configuration. Availability is also limited. Dakota Tactical does not produce these guns at mass market volume. This is the collector-grade enthusiast pick. It is not a rational budget buy. It is a 10mm MP5 fan's dream gun. Hi-Point 1095. Admit it. You have seen the Hi-Point 1095 at a gun show and wondered whether you had enough cash in your pocket to take it home. No shame in that. The 1095 is not elegant. It is not refined. Nobody will mistake it for a premium European PCC. But it is simple, heavy, and affordable. The action is straight blowback. The gun weighs about 7 pounds. In a sleek carbine, that may sound excessive. In 10mm, weight can help. That mass absorbs some of the movement that a lighter blowback gun sends directly into the shooter. The muzzle is threaded. The action includes last round hold open. And the platform has a reputation for basic, workmanlike function. But this is where things get ugly. The stock design is awkward. The sights are basic. The polymer body does not feel premium. And the magazine is proprietary. Capacity is limited to 10 rounds. That is the biggest practical weakness. In a market filled with Glock magazine carbines, a proprietary 10-round magazine is difficult to defend. Still, the Hi-Point has a clear role. It is the budget workhorse, it is heavy, it is unattractive, and you will not panic over the first scratch. For a buyer who wants an affordable 10mm carbine and accepts the magazine limitation, the 1095 deserves more respect than its appearance suggests. Just Right Carbine Takedown 10mm. The Just Right Carbine Takedown 10mm comes from a company that built its name around pistol caliber carbines. The Takedown model is the most useful version of the concept. Broken down, the carbine becomes a compact package. The rifle weighs about 6 pounds and uses a 16-inch barrel. That gives it a legitimate role as a packable utility gun. The receiver is built from aircraft-grade aluminum. The design is intended to handle transport, storage, and practical field use. The operating system is straight blowback. That keeps the action simple. It can also make the charging effort feel stiffer than on a more refined delayed system. That is the trade-off. The JRC uses Glock magazines. It also offers reversible ejection, a top rail, and familiar AR-style controls. For shooters who already understand the AR-15 layout, the learning curve is minimal. The JRC overlaps with the TNW in several ways. Both are packable. Both emphasize utility. The difference is emphasis. The TNW leans harder into caliber conversion. The JRC leans harder into Glock magazines and AR-style familiarity. This is the practical takedown pick for the shooter who wants a conventional control layout and a compact storage footprint. The 10mm PCC category is not one size fits all. That is the entire point. A gun can be powerful, reliable, and accurate and still be wrong for the way you actually shoot. The TNW Aero survival rifle is the modular survival utility pick. The Smith & Wesson M and P FPC is the folding option for shooters already invested in the M&P ecosystem. The Ruger LC carbine is the refined Glock magazine choice, but the price matters. The B&T APC-10 is the premium defensive platform. The KelTec Sub-2000 is the value folding gun. The KRISS Vector is the unconventional recoil management platform. The CMMG Banshee combines AR familiarity with radial delayed blowback. The Dakota Tactical MP5 clone is the collector-grade roller-delayed option. The Hi-Point 1095 is the ugly but affordable workhorse. And the Just Right Carbine Takedown is the packable utility gun with familiar controls. Before buying, ask 4 questions. Do you need the gun to fold or break down? Do you already own compatible magazines? Are you willing to accept straight blowback recoil? And what is your real budget after the optic, spare magazines, ammunition, and legal requirements? Because 10mm power is easy to sell. Cheap on the shelf can get expensive real fast. The right 10mm carbine is the one that still makes sense after the first range session, after the ammunition bill, after the accessories, and after you discover how the gun actually feels with the loads you intend to use. That is the one worth owning.